Hey everybody, this is Josh Runquist here for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel for a monumental episode of Out Today and What I Missed, this time for June 6th, 2025. I say this is a monumental and historic episode as I have officially done it. Not only is there 30 albums this week, 10 that come out today, 20 that I've missed along the way, something I haven't done in quite a bit of time. But I finally did it. I've hit 500 album reviews this year in 2025. I am so freaking tired and I just got done putting pen to paper, or really keyboard strokes to the screen, but you know what I'm talking about. And now it's time for me to talk about these 30 albums that will equal up to 500 albums that I covered so far in 2025. So let's just get into it. Up first, we have Austere with The Stillness of Dissolution. Just 14 months and a day after their 2024 album Beneath the Threshold was released, Austere did an almost immediate turnaround and has given us another slab of depressing yet exceptional black metal. The Australian duo's fifth album feels like the band exploring more of the black metal side of the band's sound, while still having the occasional post-black, acoustic, and other genre-bending moments that makes them stand out amongst the rest. The production is exceptional, and the songwriting hits that fine line of what songs need to be, all while never feeling like they go on for too long. While not sounding like a continuation of Beneath the Threshold, this does serve as a great album to pair with in one sitting. The songs hit just as hard, just a tad faster in parts, but the overall overwhelming melancholic nature never leaves. This is the kind of album that will either leave you feeling depressed or so relieved that you found something that can be so cathartic like this. This is easily one of the best black metal albums of the year so far. If you like your black metal on the very depressing side, Austere is the band for you. Next up, we have A to Z with A to Z Squared. The sophomore album featuring past and present members of Fate's Warning, Redemption, and more is a wonderful display of how to make the past and the present prog worlds work together in perfect harmony. So many moments on this album remind me of the glory days of 90s era Fate's Warning when Ray Alder first joined the band, and once you know it, Ray Alder is fronting this band as well, along with Mark Zonder on drums, and it just hits that style from the production, the songwriting, and it still finds a way to make themselves stand out and updated just enough with some more modern tropes and a bit of genre bending that gets as close to catchy AOR as I've ever seen them do. This album has a flair for catchiness that is undeniable, which proves that prog can be so much more than shredding and wanking. Although you do get both of those in here, it is prog after all, it's not prominent. This may fly under the radar for some, but it really shouldn't. This is an incredible album that is worthy of any prog fan, and hey, any rock or metal fan in general of a certain persuasion. This has everything that you want and will be stuck in your head for days. What a brilliant album. Next, we have Bear Mace with Slaves of the Wolf. The third album from the Chicago band featuring past and present members of November's Doom, Black Sites, and more is that classic style of OSDM, old school death metal that just makes me so happy. It never gets too far into the brutal death metal styles, it never slows down enough to be death doom. It hits that fine line of OSDM that would make any fan of Bolt Thrower, Memoriam, Massacre, and more very happy like myself. The production is a bit raw, but it never loses its punchiness. The songwriting again is classic OSDM, and the performance on hand never goes out of their element. It's bringing back what worked so well in the early 90s and making it just modern enough for 2025. For any fan of that era, this is required listening, a sheer heavy display of how to do death metal in a way that sounds fresh, yet also very pit-worthy. Here we have Diabolisches Werk with Against All Gods. The sophomore album from this German death thrash band has totally won me over, blending both death metal and thrash in a way that almost gets into black metal territory at times, but still keeps that death metal growls intact and the speediness that both death and thrash make their own. This feels like such a glorious mix of Sodom meets Possessed in a way that has even more evil trademarks and authenticity behind it. The production is punchy, but it still has the rawness that you'd expect, making for a pleasing audible experience, which you don't normally get in this genre. And the songwriting on display feels so intense and potentially overwhelming, but it always finds a way to make the music on hand just really work out. If you missed that late 80s death thrash sound, you need to check out what Diabolisches Werk is all about. Next up is Gall's Word or Gull's Weird. I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I don't know exactly which one is right, with Braiding the Stories. The sophomore album from this quite experimental band is one that instantly grabbed my attention. It's been 6 years since their debut, proving that they are all about the quality, not the quantity. Gull and company have created a unique atmosphere that can hit as dark and evil as any black metal band, especially something like Gorgoroth, but they still find a way to keep things different enough by incorporating more elements of progressive, post-rock, even some folk. The production is pristine and gives the music a sophistication that you wouldn't normally expect in this style. If you're a fan of anything that Gull has done, or if you enjoy the likes of Enslaved, Isan, or even Wardruna, I know that sounds like a weird combination on paper, but you should give this one a proper listen. This one may not hit you right away on the first listen, but I guarantee you the more that you listen to it, the more captivated you will be, and it will take a long time for this one to get out of your listening cycle. I keep going back to it, and I keep finding layers every time. That's what a good album does. Marvelous work. Next up, we have Gruesome with Silent Echoes. I'll keep this one short and sweet, just like the album. Gruesome have returned with their death worship sound with Silent Echoes. Their take on the human era of death, and it is glorious. Everything from the production to the songwriting to the performance on display sounds like that human album in all its greatest forms, just brand new music, featuring past and present members of Exhumed, Possessed, Malevolent Creation, and Castrator. The band continues to show their appreciation for the work of Chuck Schuldiner in a way we can only hope would make him proud. I'm so curious if they'll tackle the symbolic and Sound of Perseverance era of death. I know Matt Harvey is not a fan of those albums, but until that day, we are still in the pure death metal era and getting into the progressive death metal era of death, and I couldn't be more on board. Gruesome rules, and Silent Echoes continues the trend. Just put this on and enjoy everything Gruesome brings back from the dead. Next, we have Inglorious with 5. Back from a short hiatus, Glorious returns with their 5th album, and it is easily the most inspired the band has ever sounded to date. While the signature sound of the band is still fully intact, the band continues to experiment more with metal-esque styles, classic hard rock, stompers, and the occasional AOR moments that makes the album sound so varied and fresh from beginning to end. The production is polished and makes everyone shine. This is a band that knows how to create a hard rock album, and it's great to see them back and shining brighter than ever. This is what they're doing now when they're rejuvenated. I can't wait to see what the 6th album is going to sound like. Now we have Catatonia with Nightmares as extensions of the walking state. I didn't think I was going to get this promo, much to my dismay, but I was thankfully proven wrong when the label sent me a promo through the email, and it was more than worth the wait. I know the band is going through some turmoil right now, and that breaks my heart to see happen. I hate seeing really good friends have such a bad fallout, and I hope all the parties will come out the other side stronger than ever, but none of that takes away from the power of this album and what it has in store. If their previous album Sky Void of Stars is an updated version of Last Fair Deal Gone Down, which is my favorite Catatonia album, this is easily a modern version of The Great Cold Distance. What makes that album work out so well is the right moments of crushing riffs, the occasional odd time signatures, the dark atmosphere, and the overall vibe that progressive gothic metal can really be a mainstay. All of that is also here. The experimentation seems to have been left back with Sky Void of Stars, and this album is filled to the brim with the memorable Catatonia stuff that most fans love and cherish. This is an album that I hope has the staying power of The Great Cold Distance as well, as it more than deserves the praise, despite everything that's going on outside of the music. Also, the final track, In the Event Of, has become one of my favorite tracks the band has ever done. No matter how experimental or straight ahead the band is on every album cycle, they find a way to push themselves and to make the best music possible, and they've done that here once again. What a wonderful and of course depressing album. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Thomas Carlson's Transmission with Clockwork Sky. What a phenomenal release. The sophomore album from this one-man band hits everything that I love about the classic era of 80s metal. I'm not talking about thrash, I'm not talking about glam rock, but I'm talking about that budding era that pushed what became 80s heavy metal, progressive metal, and power metal, and the occasional AOR moments to create a heavy yet catchy atmosphere. While Carlson does not do vocals on this album, he has incorporated the likes of vocalists from Power Paladin, Scale of Alken, Silent Winter, and Blizzard Hunter to capture the power of the past, but also show how far we've come along in at least 40 years of these genres of rock and metal. The production is perfect for this style, and the songwriting could not be more inspired. If you love straight up metal, proggy stuff, AOR, and a little bit of power and glam, other stuff like that, you need Clockwork Sky in your rotation. It only gets better on every listen, and I know it will for you as well. And now for everything I missed, starting with Arm's Length, with There's a Whole World Out There. The sophomore album from this Canadian band is a welcome surprise to my musical palette. With how much funeral doom, grindcore, symphonic black metal, etc. that I listen to daily, I need the occasional left-of-center band for my musical taste, and having a band that hits that late 90s, 2000s, and modern-day sounds of pop-punk, post-hardcore, and especially emo mixed together is something that just itches a scratch that I occasionally need, and this more than satisfies that. The production on this one is simply stellar. The songwriting is quite grandiose, especially for the genres, and lyrically, this hits way too hard. This reminds me so much of when Spanish love songs put out their magnum opus Brave Faces Everyone, but it's done in just a little bit of a different style. This really hits home for anyone that's ever come from a broken home and somehow found a way to be able to break free of all of it and move out on their own, but it still has all the horrors of what comes from the past, present, and the future. If you can relate to that, this could be one of the most cathartic albums that you hear in 2025. While this is definitely a left-of-center album for my own taste, this does resonate with a younger version of myself discovering music on my own, and this hits more for me than it would have at the time, which is quite shocking to me actually, but you know, hindsight is 2020. If you could use something like this as well, seriously, give this one a shot and see what it does for you. Next up is a band that I really hope that I get the band name right of, but I feel like I'm really gonna butcher it. Belne Yom, with Dark Tales of Zarathustra. I really don't know how you could call this anything other than a supergroup featuring legendary members of Flesh God Apocalypse, Nile, Annihilator, and more. This is a blackened approach to bands like Flesh God, but even more sinister. Seriously, this reminds me so much of like the last two Emperor albums, a nice healthy mix of that early to mid era of Dimmu Borgir thrown in for good measure. This is another one that I have been meaning to get to for quite a bit of time, but I'm glad I'm getting to it now, as this is a stellar display of what the genre can be. The production is raw, but it's more than made up for by the songwriting and the performances on display. This is a pure whirlwind of melancholic emotions that hit you from all guns blazing speed to the haunting slower movements and everything in between. If you have a love for that 90s, early 90s through mid 2000s symphonic black metal sound, you are doing yourself a disservice by missing out on this one for any longer, like I did for reviewing it. This is one of the best albums of symphonic black metal in 2025, bar none. Next up, we have Confessions of a Traitor with This Pain Will Serve You. The third album from this UK modern metalcore band instantly won me over with their blend of metalcore, electronic, and almost modern hard rock radio sounds. The sound is heavy, but it still has this catchy vibe to it all that wins you over if you dig the style. It's a very consistent album and never really goes too far from what their core sound is all about, but there is enough diversity in that sound to keep you intrigued throughout. There's also guest appearances from bands like Moments, Exist Immortal, War of Ages, and oh, wait, this is another Christian metal band, isn't it? It didn't dawn on me until I was writing up the review for this one that they are of that affiliation, but as I've stated before, I listen to as much Neil Morse as I do Behemoth as I do Orphanland. As long as you don't preach or accept hate of others, I will still give you my support if I dig your music, and you're good people. But yeah, this is another example of the music truly doing the talking, and the lyrics will definitely be for some and not for others. The production is clear and polished, and the overall atmosphere of the album is exactly what it needs for this genre to be effective. If you dig the likes of Wolves at the Gate, who I just got done covering, and the heavier ends of Demon Hunter, and you dig those kind of bands, give Confessions of a Traitor a spin and see if they're right for you. Next up is Coven with Sorrows, and yes, it is pronounced Coven, I triple checked. The debut from this UK outfit is exactly what I love about this style. It can be nice, heavy, and doomy. It feels just evil enough. They also have this layer of shoegaze throughout all of this to make you feel like you are on track with the music on display. Add all of that together and you have one of the most captivating albums in Gothic Doom in 2025. If you dig the likes of Ancient Wisdom, Blood Ceremony, and Windhand, you are sure to find something to love here. This is music that we need right now in 2025, something that feels like it can take us away from all the pain and sorrow we are currently facing and introduce us to other kinds of evil and sorrow. But seriously, this is just polished enough production, excellent songwriting, and the overall atmosphere couldn't be more appropriate. This is a band that you need to look out for going forward. This is a powerhouse band that is just going to keep rooting stronger and stronger from here on out. Just watch. Next up, we have Despite, or it could be Despot. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I'm going with Despite. With a Finnish title I will never get right, but here I am butchering it. Från melancholy till meningslöst. See, I butchered that really, really badly. The third album from this Finnish blackened crust punk band hits an itch that I've needed for so very long, combining black metal, crust punk, and the occasional death metal, especially that HM2 style guitar tones going on, to soothe my soul, despite how fast, heavy, and dark this album gets. It's everything that you could possibly want in the style. It's 10 songs, 24 minutes, they get in, destroy everything in their path, and leave you wanting more. I can't even imagine what the pits would look like for a show like this. The production is clear, yet they still sound just raw enough to feel real. And the songwriting is lean and mean, and they leave absolutely no fat on the bone. I can't sell it any better than that. If you love the style, you need Despite, and I mean now. Now we have Eldamar with Astral Journeys Part 2, Dissolution. It's not often that you hear a black metal album that just relaxes you, soothes you, and helps you feel at peace, but that's exactly what Eldamar has done with their fourth album. I do say that even with the lyrical content being the exact opposite of that meaning, it will rip your soul apart with its sadness and existentialism. The production is very clear for atmospheric black metal, which you don't often get, and there's much more clean vocals than you may expect. The songs hit you so hard, and they have this staying power that makes you want to put it on anytime that you want to drift away from reality, and we really need that these days. If you enjoy the likes of Sojourner, Alcest, and I dare say even a band like Labyrinthus Stellarum, you will find something to love about Eldamar. It's so hauntingly beautiful that the music just has to speak for itself, and that message is quite bleak. Thankfully, the music is so gorgeous that you might not even mind your own demise. Next up, we have The Haunted with Songs of Last Resort. Has it really been 8 years since the last album from The Haunted? Sadly, it has, but they have more than made up for that with their 10th album, which may be one of their strongest albums ever. With a pristine production style and a songwriting formula that hits with full force no matter how speedy or mid-tempo things get, the band has returned and maintained their signature formula, which I've always said, in the Marco era anyway, was always a mix of At the Gates meets the demonic and the Gathering era of Testament. They leave everything on the table with 12 tracks, 40.5 minutes. Despite this just coming out, again, I think this might be one of the best albums that they ever could have made, and I'm so thankful for it. Every song feels like it's meant to be here, and the overall vibe just feels so appropriate. This is an album with true staying power, and The Haunted have proven that they are here to stay, and they continue pummeling everything that's in their path. Here we have Haunted Funeral with Soul Damnation. The debut album from this Portuguese outfit is quite a fun listening experience, despite the lyrical content hitting as hard in a cathartic nature that really comes from depression. It's a fun, catchy album filled with nice heavy riffs and some great mid-tempo stompers, but that is the lyrical content that resonates with me the most and leaves a very lasting impact. The band incorporates a nice healthy dose of mellow black, mellow death, and even some modern groove metal to create a sound that feels uniquely their own, yet it does feel familiar. If you mix the Okandra, the Black Dahlia Murder, and Gorgira in a blender, you might have a good idea of what's going on here. The production is a bit abrasive and raw, but it matches the atmosphere of what's going on. Shockingly, something that is this profound in its lyrical content and songwriting is going on in just their first release. Once they get more experience under their belt, they're going to go so far if the stars align just right. If you want something that can mix all of these genres and still feel natural, you should give Haunted Funeral a proper listen. Next, we have Hyena with About Rock and Roll. Despite the band putting out a ton of EPs, live albums, compilations, and singles, this Peruvian band has yet to put out an official LP until now, and that comes in the form of About Rock and Roll. Some brand new songs and some final versions of older songs. I know how I normally do things, but this is considered their first studio album, so suck on that. It's their first true LP, and the band just makes it for a great revival metal album that is more than worthy of their contemporaries. The production is that classic 1982 feel behind it all, just like think early Dokken. And the songwriting, while sounding old school, still sounds fresh and inspired at the same time, and the performances on display make for a very endearing listening experience from beginning to end. If you want a band that feels equal parts Saxon, Skullfist, Cauldron, and Tokyo Blade, you found that with Hyena. This is how revival stays relevant in 2025, and it's a very welcome thing to see. Here we have Inhuman Nature with Greater Than Death, and I'm going to keep this one nice and short as well to match with the album. The sophomore album from this UK band feels like a continuation of Power Trip but across the pond. This album hits so very hard with its mix of crossover thrash, hardcore, and the absolute power of its production, songwriting, and performance. This thing pummels you from pillar to post for 10 songs in just about 38 minutes and still leaves you wanting more. Yeah, seriously, if you love the likes of Enforced, Toxic Holocaust, and yeah, again, very much so, Power Trip, Inhuman Nature is required listening. If that can't sell this album, what possibly could? Next up, we have Lord Vigo with Walk the Shadows. Lord Vigo returns with their most diverse album to date. On this German band's 6th album, they've always been known for doing this epic doom metal sound, but this album they threw everyone for a loop and started incorporating a nice, healthy mix of goth rock into their sound. That is something I did not see coming, but I could not appreciate it more. To my ears, they've always had the sound of like Crypt Sermon, Chemist, Solitude Eternus, and Candlemass all thrown together, and of course all heavily inspired by Ghostbusters. But now they have this nice healthy coat of bloody hammers throughout all of it. It might take a song or two for you to understand what's fully going on here and to grasp it, but it is more than worthy of your time investment. While the production is still a little bit on the raw side, which occasionally happens on the epic doom metal sound, it's what I'm used to with this band and it fits perfectly for the style on display, and it makes everything feel a bit more ghostly and haunting. No, I did not mean to make a pun there, but it works, doesn't it? This is quite the shift in sound for the band, and I'm all here for it. This is a new chapter for the band, and I can't wait to see what comes next in the sound if they continue to do so. Or if this is just a one-off, I'm glad they at least tried it out, and honestly, I think it might be their best work. Don't skip out on this one if you're a goth and or doom fan. This is that chocolate meets peanut butter experience that you should never miss. Next up, we have Lycanthrope with Remnants of Rapture. The sophomore album from this Ottawa, Ontario band is my first foray into the band, but I wish I heard them on their debut. This combines the best of symphonic, speed, power, and traditional metal into a sound that is clearly made its own, and we are better off for it. It also makes me happy that my good friend John Pyers makes several appearances on this album on keyboards. It turns out he used to be in the band, but sadly had to drop out back in 2024, but he's also doing some stuff with Crimson Glory now, so I totally understand. In fact, there's actually a lot of guest appearances on this one, like Stu Block of Into Eternity and Laura Goldmond of Burning Witches doing some guest vocals. The production is punchy, yet feels authentic. The songwriting, wow. Just simply wow. This is incredible work. It truly feels inspired, with 10 songs, just about 47 minutes long, and filled to the brim with everything that makes this style of metal so great. So if you want that in your sound, please check out the latest offering from Lycanthrope. I can't imagine that if you like the style, that you'd be disappointed. Next up, we have Malphas with Extinct, another album I feel I'm getting far too late on, but I'm so glad I'm covering it now. The 4th album from the Swiss black metal outfit is such a sinister yet sophisticated piece of dark metal. At 9 songs and 45 minutes long, this feels like the perfect length for a punishing style of black metal on display. The music hits hard thanks to its excellent songwriting and overwhelmingly perfect production. It's dark, evil, satanic, and what you would hope the genre would sound like in 2025. If you want a band that feels like equal parts Dissection, Watain, and even early day Abigail Williams, you should give this one your full attention. Next up, we have Midnight Razors with The Crazy World of Midnight Razors. Gotta keep hitting that AOR quota that I put on myself, and I'm doing that here with Midnight Razors. If I'm getting my information right, this band has released 4 full-length original LPs in 6 months. That is mind-blowing to me. And their 4th album, and their first since they did a greatest hits album of the best songs of the first 3 albums, which also baffles me beyond belief, and they have created a fantastic horror-inspired rock album that hits all the genres that I love, from AOR to hard rock to even a cover of Bruce Brookshire's Run to Me, which is so far out of my element. To say this is a band that has range is quite the understatement. How they can make 4 full lengths and still sound this good and not burnt out is a jaw-dropping display, and I'm all here for it. If you want a band that can sound as much like Kenny Loggins as it does Cinderella as it does Ramones, honestly, I have no other way to describe it, but I love it all the same. If you want this kind of diversity in your sound, check out Midnight Razors. Here we have Obsidian Tongue with Eclipsing Words of Scorn. The sixth album from this atmospheric black metal band based out of Maine has gotten better and better with every subsequent album. I have loved this band since they opened for Aglock for, well, at least at this time, and still so far, their final North American tour, and they have only gotten better in that time. The production is raw, as you would expect from this genre, but it is done with enough bass and punch to make this a rewarding listen to those who even don't normally dig this style. The songs are bleak and heartbreaking, but there's also this faint overlay of optimism thrown in, which you don't normally get in this style, but it couldn't be more welcomed. There's also the faintest bits of progressive black metal and psychedelic black metal thrown in for good measure, and it makes everything stand out because of it. If you enjoy the likes of the aforementioned Agalock, Wolves in the Throne Room, and even Woman is the Earth, a dangerously underrated black metal band, you need to check out Obsidian Tongue and see what they're all about. This is a stellar album. Next we have Opharion with A Faraway World. Despite the band being around since 2008, and after taking a several-year break in between, this is the first release from this Turkish band, and I love what I'm hearing. This is that classic era of symphonic metal with the soaring vocals, grand symphonics, and the heavy atmosphere tying everything together. There's also this layer of progressive metal that doesn't feel forced and feels very natural in the sound. The production is that right balance of clear yet real, and the songwriting just hits harder and harder with every single listen. This is easily for those who enjoy the likes of Revengeance, who I covered this year, Delane, Grave Shadow, and more. If you're loving this resurgence of symphonic metal in 2025 the way that I am, you need to check out more of that, especially from a band like Opharion. Next up, we have The Ossuary with Requiem for the Sun. 4 albums in 8 years from this Italian band is a pretty good track record, and while this is my first time hearing the band, they've instantly won me over. This is the perfect blend of doom, prog, and revival metal all thrown into one to create a unique atmosphere that never lingers on any one genre for too long, yet it all makes sense. The production is retro, but modern at the same time, which feels like a paradox, but once you hear it, it all makes sense. The songwriting is captivating and inspired, and the whole album is just this fun listen from beginning to end. 8 songs, a little over 43 minutes, that seems like the perfect length for this kind of sound. If you enjoy the likes of Messa, St. Vitus, or even an old school band like Captain Beyond, you will love what the Ossuary has in store. Next we have Savaged with Rising. The sophomore album, and the second in 18 months from this Spanish band, is such a refreshing change of pace in this style. The band harkens back to that 80s sound perfectly while still sounding relevant in 2025. From the incredibly powerful vocal delivery to the full-on musical attack, to the production that feels like the best metal album of 1985 that you've never heard. This has both that classic and the 21st century vibes for an album and a band that can make it very far. If you dig the likes of Halloween, Enforcer, and even Lizzie Borden, you will find something to love and appreciate about Savaged. This is a short and sweet album at 9 songs and 36 minutes, and they leave it all on the table for you to enjoy. Seriously, if you dig the style, you need Savaged. Next up is The Storyteller with The Final Stand, a Swedish power metal band that has been around for over 25 years, and I'm just hearing about them this year because of this album. How could this possibly be? Well, I hope this remedies that situation, as this is one of the most fun power metal albums I've heard so far in 2025. The songs are a full-on display of force, and the performances on display are mesmerizing. And talk about inspired. This is a band that, despite being their 7th album in 25 years, still sounds just as fresh and as natural as if it would have came out in 2000. It is a fun, fast, whimsical, and adventurous piece of power metal that should satisfy anyone that's looking for something in the fantasy realm, or if you just love power metal. For any fan of Iron Savior, Bloodbound, Vianity, and even Falconer, although very different vocally, give The Storyteller your proper attention. Be it a longtime fan or just discovering them for the first release like I have, I think you're going to be won over. Next up, we have Trolled with an album title I know I'm going to get wrong, and I apologize for it. I Skolvens Reich. This is one that I've also been meaning to get to for months, and sadly it didn't happen until now, but that doesn't take away from the quality of this one. The sophomore album from this Denmark band is an incredibly inspired album that knows exactly who they are, and they make the most of it. The production is brilliant and it shines. The songwriting is so much fun, and it never loses the heavy tendencies, and the performances on display are an incredible thing to hear time and time again. I can't imagine this would win over any non-folk metal fans, as this is like pure, unadulterated folk metal, but if you are a fan of the genre, and especially if you love a band like Fintroll, if they've never toured together, they really should, you are going to love what you hear from Trolled. This is how you give folk metal justice in 2025, make it your own, and of course, have fun with it all. Who couldn't use some fun in their lives as a break from reality in 2025, am I right? And finally, for all the albums that I'm talking about today, and technically my 500th album review in 2025, is the band You Win Again Gravity with Don't Leave Me Here Part 1. And what I hope is really a tribute to Zach Brannigan in the band's title. And now that I think about it, it also could be a reference to Leela in the album title, although that could be a stretch. The third album from this UK band is my first foray into the band, but I love what I'm hearing. I hear as much modern progressive metal, a la the Contortionist and Tesseract and Haken, as I do 2000s emo, post-core from bands like Finch, and even some mathcore like a band like Misery Signals, which I was not expecting. All of this makes for a formula that, had this come out in like 2009, 2010, they probably would be one of my favorite bands of all time. But in 2025, it's a winning combination of genres that just feels so rewarding to listen to, and it just hits so hard, and it does harder and harder in every repeat listen. Give this one a proper listen if you're intrigued at all by what this could be for you, as it instantly won me over, and if you give it the chance, it might just do the same for you. And I can't wait to see what Don't Leave Me Here Part 2 is all about. And there you go, folks, another 30 albums down, but more importantly, we have hit that monumental number of 500 album releases so far in 2025. So what do you think? Did I pick out some good albums this week? Some bad albums? Anything that I've left out? Anything I should check out? Anything that you'll be checking out or steering clear of? Please let me know down below. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Next week, we'll probably return to our regularly scheduled program of 20 albums a week. I just really wanted to hit that 500 mark, and I didn't want to skip over it by next week having 510. So you can see why I do that. I'm quite anal when it comes to that stuff. Who would have thunk it? But until next week, for the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel, this is Josh Runquist saying, embrace the skullet.